Now, Alex discovered her talent for writing during her time at university. She wrote 6 complete novels during her degree, and her 3rd book was discovered by a publisher. Her latest book, Lex Trent Fighting with Fire, continues the comic fantasy series of Lex Trent's world. Alex Bell, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, Alex, your family must have been into reading, because where did your influence come for writing?
Yeah, my family are all very into reading, and the house when I was growing up was full of books. And also my dad tried to direct certain books to my way and my brother's way. He wanted us to be well-read in the classics and things, which we complained about at the time, but later on you're glad that you've read them. But also whenever I wanted books, they were bought for me, so it wasn't a question of not being able to afford to buy them, and reading was always very much encouraged.
So, what sort of books were you into then? I mean, what did you read?
I was into lots of different things when I was growing up. I mean, the normal sort of school stories, I think a lot of, children and teenagers like, but also sort of some supernatural stories, and I mean all genres, because we were encouraged to read all different kinds of genres anyway. But I just read whatever I was given. So,
as an author, when you did your first book, The Ninth Circle, I mean, how old were you?
Well, I was 19 when I wrote that one, and I think I was 20 by the time I got the offer for it to be published. And by the time it came out, I was 21, so there was quite a long delay between it coming out and between my writing it.
Now, when you wrote this book, though, you were still at university, wasn't you?
Yes. Yeah, it was my first summer holidays off, because I had 3 months that I didn't have to do any law work in. And, I sort of thought I'd rather not have to get a job where I'm waiting tables every single day, but soon I'm going to have to go out and do full-time work. And this is one of my last chances to try to, get a full-length manuscript that's going to be published. So I did that in the summer.
And what was the reaction to the book when it was published?
It was good, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's the same as with any book. There's always going to be some people that don't like it, but the most of the reviews were good, and I was pleased that people got what I had been trying to do.
Well, it's been that good. It's been auctioned for a script, hasn't it?
It's been optioned for film. Yeah.
And how's that going? I mean, is that in the very early stages?
Well, it was optioned originally, probably getting on for 2 years ago, I think now. But Real Art have said that they would like to extend the option so that I can have a go at rewriting the script. So that's what I'm doing at the moment, trying to learn all the ins and outs of script writing.
And what was the influence behind the book, would you say?
There were lots of different influences. I mean, I studied religious studies at college, and that got me interested in the theology of it. But also things like the Bourne Identity or anything that has amnesia in it really interested me.
So just tell us about the book, just very briefly then.
The book involves a man who wakes up in Budapest with no memory of who he is. And he discovers that he can speak lots of different languages, and he can do martial arts, and then angels and devils start coming into the book, and he's not sure to what extent it's in his own head or not, and what's happened before, and what he has found himself mixed up in. So he's trying to find that out.
Absolutely. And then your next book was Jasmine.
Yep.
And this was a slightly different angle on things, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's much more of like a dark fairy tale, and it's got a love story element that The Ninth Circle doesn't have. But it's similar in that it's set in modern day Europe, and it's a contemporary supernatural mystery.
So why fantasy though?
I just prefer that when I'm writing. I don't always even intend for it to happen. With The Ninth Circle, I didn't to begin with, but it just tends to creep into anything that I write, because I think that I find it more interesting as a writer, that anything could happen. And with Jasmine, the thing that I wanted to do at the end, it had to be a supernatural book. It couldn't be, a mainstream, real world one for what I wanted to happen. So
these are very much paranormal, some of these subjects. And is that something that you've always been interested in, the paranormal?
Yeah, I mean, when I was been reading, I do read all different types of genres, but I prefer writing it. And it is something that I am interested in naturally. My dad always had a whole set of unexplained books that I would look through when I was little and be fascinated by them.
They never put you off, no?
No, they encouraged me. The pictures of Bigfoot and that. So, that's probably where it came from.
And your sort of newest novels, one of your later ones, Lex Trent. Now tell me about that book and how that came about.
Well, Lex Trent is, it's aimed at a young adult audience as opposed to adult, but it's on the edges of being a crossover book. So ideally, I would want it to appeal to adults as well. But it's very different from the Galanx books because they're comic fantasy. So they're they're much more light-hearted, and they're supposed to be just a sort of tongue-in-cheek, sort of quite humorous adventure with an anti-hero, because I love anti-heroes. And Lex just came into my head again in a law lecture, and I wrote the book, the first one at university, not the second one, obviously. But I just really enjoyed doing something very fun and light-hearted, which was different from what I'd done before.
Yeah, because there's definitely a current of humor undertone throughout the book.
Yeah,
and it's it's very much like a sort of Monty Python sort of.
Well, that was kind of what I was going for, because I loved Monty Python and I loved Terry Pratchett, and I love that they were so much fun to write. And I like sort of adventures like that are very sort of just swashbuckling and not taking itself too seriously and everything like that. So I wanted to do something different.
There's very much a Harry sort of Potter feel to the books, isn't there?
Yeah.
Was that intentional?
Well, I mean, I grew up reading Harry Potter, so I mean, it wasn't intentional, but obviously Harry Potter is part of my subconscious and of having grown up reading books. But with Harry Potter, I loved the magical world. So again, with these ones, I wanted to create a magical world rather than like a magical version of our world. And I loved the freedom that gave me just to do whatever I wanted. And, and the freedom to be very creative with it. So from that point of view, the Harry Potter things were influenced, but I wanted my protagonist to be not as noble as Harry Potter.
Yeah,
and I wanted
which is not, is he?
To be very selfish and just to be out for himself, but to know that he's a good for nothing scoundrel. So,
well, what's your favourite character in the new Lex Trent books?
Well, Lex would probably be my favourite character, but in the second one, he's got a new partner who's called Jesse, who is a cowboy who's also pretty rascally, and he would be my favourite new character. I really, really enjoyed writing him.
Yeah, because it's full of all sorts of sort of mythology, isn't it, as well? And there's a lot of Greek mythology in the books, isn't there?
Yeah. There's a film that I watched when I was little. I'm trying to remember what it was called, but it had sort of a CGI skeleton sequence, and it followed the story of one of the Greek heroes going through seeing the Medusa and things.
Right, right. Because when I read it, I got a sort of feel of Jason and the
Jason and the Argonauts.
That is the one,
that's
right?
The one, yeah.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I love that, and so all the Greek mythology, and I like the fact that it's so sort of it's so wild and different from any kind of religion that you'd have now, and all the different kinds of gods and things, and playing games with men, and I liked all of that, so that was an influence as well.
Yeah, and the fairy godmothers, and well, I mean, where did that come from? I mean,
I don't know. I just wanted to have a play on like classic fantasy adventure stories. So with fairy godmothers, you expect them to be kindly and that, and in fact they're just fed up with people pestering them for wishes and things. And I just wanted to do like a slightly different twist on what I had read before in other books. So
what's been the reception, shall I say, from the young adults? I mean, how have they perceived it?
It's been really good, actually. I was really pleased because a lot more teenagers now have book blogs, and they're reviewing the books on the blogs. So the publishers send the books straight to them and they review them. Which I prefer to, an adult who's being paid to review from a magazine doing it, because the teenagers are, who the book is aimed at anyway. And they all seem to, the ones that reviewed it all seem to really like it and get the humour and sort of enjoy the fun aspect of the books. So I was really, really pleased with the responses that I got from them.
I mean, did you ever see yourself writing sort of young adult books? I mean, it's...
Not really. I mean, it's just that Lex came into my head as a teenager. So... I mean, I didn't write them any differently than I would have done if they'd been adult books. It's just that the main character is a teenager. And that's it, really. I've not altered the story. I've not written down or anything like that. It's essentially the same, but just with a teenage main character.
So where do you see the books going? I mean, is this part of a trilogy of books? Or?
Well, the Lex Trent started off as a 2-book deal. So, I mean, the end of the second book is left open for more, and I would love to do more Lex Trents. But I don't know, with being sort of quite busy with the script work and that, I don't know if there will be another one, but I would certainly love to write another one. And I think at some point I probably will want to go back and see what happens next.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you write any more sort of adult books?
I would like to do more adult books too. I mean, I enjoy doing both in different ways. So usually I find once I've finished one type, I look forward to, it's like using a different part of my brain for the other type. But I really enjoy writing both types of book. So I would always like to continue with both if I could. And
what would be your, general advice to anyone that's sat there now watching this thinking, well, I've got an idea for a book, but just how do I do what you've done?
Well, I think the first bit of advice would be that you need to just sit down and do a little bit of writing each day, because I think a lot of people have like an idea for a beginning, and they can write like the first page or the first chapter, and then they get sort of scared at the thought of having to write an entire book, and you think, what do I do? And I think it's a question of just forging on and writing something, even if the scene isn't very good, and later you can come back and try to fix it, but not to get paralyzed and not to do anything at all, just to break through and just make sure you're writing something, even if it's not that good. And you're going to have to come back and rewrite it.
Yeah.
And to persevere and to read as much as possible as well, obviously.
That's very important, isn't it? To keep reading all the time. And you must have got an agent though part of the process.
Yeah. Well, I started off sending directly to publishers, but a lot of publishers won't accept unsolicited manuscripts. So there's much smaller number you can send to like that. So I thought I'm going to have to send to agents instead. And I was quite lucky there because I got an agent fairly quickly. And then obviously she was able to send the books off to publishers that I couldn't send to. So. And
how do your friends, from university, look at you now with having 6 books published? I mean, it's a good achievement.
4 books published.
Oh, sorry, 4 books published. Let's say. Yeah.
But they're always excited. When my friends or family read one of the books, they see me in certain scenes that obviously, if you didn't know me, that you wouldn't. But everyone's always been really supportive with the books, and people have all come to the signings I've done in Southampton,
and that family support must have been very important for you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, because obviously when you're starting out, you don't know if you're ever going to get published, and I think if you don't have a supportive family, or if they don't take it seriously, you can still do it, but it's much more difficult. It's of course it's going to be easier if people are supporting you. So I was really lucky there.
And where would you like to see yourself in 10 years?
I don't know, with 10 more books published, I suppose, and maybe a couple of films. That would be nice.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.